All right, welcome to Talking Investing, special Thursday edition. The market was a half day today in the United States. The market is closed tomorrow for Independence Day. So we got a little breather. We got a long weekend if you're in the U.S. Obviously, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin trades 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are no holidays, so we will keep our eye on it. But we're doing our weekly stream early this week. Hello, George.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. I feel really good about this week. We got a big show today. So do us a favor.
This has been an amazing week.
This was an amazing week. You said it. Smash the like button. Let's get some people in here to understand that it is go time. It's on. We just turned the corner. This is not financial advice, but I can tell you right now, I haven't felt this way in 6 months. So I feel like we're about to have, and we've already had some really good stuff happen. So we're going to go through this week, last week, month to date, year to date. We're looking at a very different picture right now, and things change dramatically. And I got a new chart I want to show everybody just to compare and contrast. The last 3 months, very quietly, have been absolutely incredible for most of the Bitcoin miners. And I say most. There's a couple that are lagging, but what they've done under the radar, while everyone's calling this dead money and ignoring this and disappearing and going away, you're going to be surprised. Well, some of you won't. I know you guys pay close attention as well. But we're on a run. I see Pogo asking me, did you sell IREN today, Tom?
Yeah, because Mike Money might have done your play, Tom.
Mike. Well, guess what? I did not sell IREN. I put a stop loss on, which somebody in our members only talked about, because I was thinking about swapping it out. Sometimes, you gotta, that was such a simple answer. But I feel pressure, and I just took a step back, and I said, you know what? I'm going to put a stop loss on it and just keep letting it ride. And I raised that stop loss by $1 today. So even if it falls all the way back down to where I am, I'll still sell it for more than I would have when I wanted to sell it.
Yeah.
So I feel really good about that. Also, we're going to talk about Bitfarms. I know you guys are sick of me talking about it, but guess what? They're back. Bitfarms, we're going to take a look at what they did yesterday. They're now trading over $1, where basically everybody said they would never be again. And here we are just a few days or a week later, and they're already back over $1. So yes, I'm on the hype train. Now, I will say my opinion of Bitfarms has changed, so we'll talk about that. I've talked about that before, and I am looking for an exit strategy. I'm looking for the door out of here, but I don't think we're there yet. I'll talk about exactly why later. I think there's another really big push coming on Bitfarms, and then it's going to be time to take profits and leave, in my opinion. So Mike's Money did sell IREN at $14.80, up 230%, and used to buy Hive at $1.79. Hive, which we have been talking on the channel. We've been talking up Hive for like 2 months now, and they finally, it seems like it's their time. So you got in at $1.79. It's up dramatically from there. It's now at $2.31. So you caught a great run on that, and I think we're still in super early days on Hive as well. If you're not in Hive yet and you feel like you just missed it because we went from, in the $1.70s to $2.30, I don't think so. I think Hive is still pretty, at this price, it's still pretty close to its all-time low. So I think there's a lot of room, and they got a lot going on. So I'm feeling positive about Hive as well. We got 17 likes. Let's get our 100 likes. Last stream we got them with ease. We've been struggling to get 100 likes, but let's get people back in here because I'd like to see everybody catch the rest of this party because I think it has begun. What do you think, George? Am I overly optimistic?
Well, I mean, a little bit. There is a few little hiccups still that could delay the celebration, but I think overall everything is pointing to the countdown is on. I mean, Tom, I'm still wondering that we could get, I still say this, I'm thinking a God candle could happen this year on my BTC, baby.
I see every reason to believe that could very, very well happen. We are headed towards a supply shock that, if everything keeps going the way it's going, we could have the best candle we've ever had. So we'll see, and you guys know the roller coaster ride. Yes, just because I'm excited doesn't mean we're not going to have pullbacks and all that kind of stuff, because that is just the nature of the beast in cryptocurrency. But I am going to feel good and celebrate after the week we just had. I'm going to feel good about it. I'm going to go to the chart right now and show everybody what the Bitcoin miners did this week. We'll come back later when some more people show up because we're still pretty light. Thank you for the likes. We're at 32 likes, but let's get some more going. It's really the only thing that gets us out into the algorithm. So leave some comments, smash the like button, the thumbs up button, and thank you, Jeff. Bitcoin all-time high will be hit live on the stream today. Wouldn't that be nice? We have to have a nice run, but it's not impossible.
I think, Tom, during this alt season, when it takes off, which I still think we're a few weeks away from it, I think we could be, I think 4 or 5 weeks is when it's probably going to really take off. And when it does, though, I'm just letting everybody know, since your bags are packed, make sure you know when you're getting off, because I think we're going to see violent swings this alt season, Tom. Violent.
I think you're right. I think the people are going to have to take decisive action because altcoin season in general is that way, and things seem to have gotten even more volatile in the altcoins. We're going to read an article later that talks about that and the potential maybe for the second half of the year to be better. I will tell you, the altcoins had a nice day a couple of days ago, and I was a little bit kicking myself like, God, did I miss the beginning of the train? But we're still so early. Most of these coins, I've pretty much filled up. And I'll keep dollar cost averaging into XRP, but I feel good about my position there. Finally, after years of George telling me to buy that, I've built that up.
And it just shows you guys, it just takes a few years sometimes on some people.
That's right. Better late than never. But the rest of what I want to buy, I mean, I've got a list and I really haven't started compiling it yet. So that's my final thing for this part of, I'm done buying miners. So I'm done with the run they just had, and I think they're going to keep running. That's it. No more dollar cost averaging. My positions are, to say they're full would be an understatement. So I'm not necessarily done buying Bitcoin, and I'm definitely only just getting started buying the altcoins. So I think there's opportunity ahead. And I'm starting to look some other places for what's next as well, because this run won't last forever. And the altcoin run, like George was alluding to, that can be in the blink of an eye. You really got to take profits. Obviously you could do whatever you want, but if history is any indicator and recent events, when these things run.
My whole thing, Tom, is I'm not even looking to take any profits on any of mine. Unless there is a new rule that says there is no capital gains on crypto.
How about, aren't you in some speculative coins that if they, do their thing, aren't you going to sell them, or you're Just gonna.
No, I'm not. I'm just not ready to even think about selling yet. I just maybe, but maybe not. I don't know. There's just so many things. Like H bar is a great example. You know, H bar could be like maybe one of the most undervalued altcoins out there. I mean, because there's just so much that's going to happen with H bar. And it was funny. I saw an article today with Kevin O'Leary talking about it.
So there's one that's not even on our list yet.
Yeah, H bar. Yeah,
Jeff.
H bar is going to be used just like Jeff.
Jeff, thank you for the super chat. Jeff said, take your profits and buy some supermarkets. This is Jeff's infamous advice, and it has been good advice in the past. So I'm going to read off the list that Jeff is saying. Take your profits and buy some supermarkets. IMKTA, WMK, VLGEA, KRSFM. In that order for upside backwards in value. So Jeff's calling out a list, and his supermarket play has been working for him for years now. So thanks for the not financial advice, but for your thoughts.
No, but I just see, Tom, is just so much that, you know, I mean, if there is no capital gains, then I'll probably have to, you know, take some value off, you know what I mean? But I have a 10-year plan. And what's crazy, Tom, is it might only be a 3 or a 4-year plan because things are just changing so quickly.
The adoption is happening, and it's not just happening to Bitcoin. I mean, overwhelmingly, Bitcoin is the 800-pound gorilla in this space, and that's now, at this point, that's now an understatement. But there's a lot of things that I think have, and by a lot, I'm saying 5, 6, 7, 8, that have real value, that have long-term staying power, and we're starting to see publicly traded companies create treasuries of. So we've got a very long list of those companies with Bitcoin, but we've now seen a bunch of companies start to create Ethereum treasuries. I'm going to talk about one of those today. We've seen XRP treasuries, several companies, Solana treasuries. One company, it has a huge Binance treasury. So, you know, there's some coins that corporate America is buying. It has begun. Now, I will tell you, Anthony Scaramucci, who I put very little confidence in anything that he says, he said, oh, this is all just a fluke, and all the companies are going to stop buying Bitcoin. They're going to sell their Bitcoin. So I think he's exactly 100% wrong about that. I think we haven't even seen the mainstream companies start to buy Bitcoin yet. Most of the Bitcoin is from smaller companies creating treasury strategies, trying to emulate the company strategy, what was Microstrategy and Michael Saylor. We have not really seen the big dogs with the big money start to put money into this stuff yet. And I think you're going to start seeing that over the next, 2, 3, 4 years, which is why I feel like this run can keep going, because that's just one pool of trillions of dollars that's yet to move into Bitcoin in a meaningful way. We've got a lot of those left. So, yep, in the middle, we're going to have 20% pullbacks, 30% pullbacks, but I don't know when this run ends.
I just got to tell you, a lot of people pointed to Vanguard for the reasons that, they don't think that crypto is going to do well. And, look, they point to look at what Vanguard's not even promoting any of the crypto or the BTCs or nothing. They just don't believe it. Do you know who the new CEO is?
Of Vanguard?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Okay, try to say it. Salim Ramji?
That's probably at least as good as I could do. So
he was previously oversaw BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. If you think that Vanguard is not going to change their position, I'm sorry. You need to go by that bridge in Brooklyn.
And that's by the way, they have $10 trillion under management.
Yeah.
And zero of it's in Bitcoin right now. So this is what I'm saying. There's pools of money.
Who oversaw the ETF for BlackRock isn't going to come on. I can't even imagine. Tell me you know without even telling me you know. It's wow.
And BlackRock, I should have saved the article. There's so many that I closed it out. But BlackRock, they just had an article today about how their Bitcoin ETF, they're making more money in fees off of that than their biggest ETF.
Really?
They now have, and I had the BlackRock page open. I still do. Let's take a look. This is iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF, which is BlackRock's ETF. And if you look, see, we always look at the inflows. When I show you guys the charts, or when other people show you the charts of inflows and outflows, that's the value it was when it went in. But the reality is, net assets under management here for IBIT, $76 billion. This is a $76 billion ETF, and they just started it last year. I mean, these numbers are mind-blowing. No other ETF has gotten to this size in even 5 years. So they're minting money on this while Vanguard sat on their hands and said, no, 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 right? This is already, their best performing ETF for BlackRock. So
it could be the biggest financial mistake ever made by a mutual fund company like this.
And they're going to be stubborn about it, right? Because there's egos at play here that are monumental. And now they've taken the counter position to BlackRock, and at some point they're going to have to, hat in hand, come to the market and say, I guess we were wrong about that Bitcoin thing.
Yeah. And you would think they would do it sooner than later.
Yeah. I'm stunned they haven't done it already. It goes to me, that's just pure arrogance. And, if you're saying this guy's their new CEO, well,
he's been there for, I guess, a year now. But, it's whoever owns Vanguard, which could you even figure that one out?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's something to do with, BlackRock.
It's the people that own the companies that own the companies that own the companies that own the world.
Exactly.
Somebody's pointing out Vanguard does own 15% of CleanSpark, so that's interesting. Vanguard. Vanguard owns 15% of CleanSpark. Despite the fact they've stayed away from Bitcoin completely. So I'm going to go through, George had to step away for a minute. I'm going to go through, and Alexander's pointing out that IREN put out an announcement today on expansion of their AI cloud business. So I do have that. I'm going to go through that as well. There was a bunch of different announcements. We had a few companies put out their announcement. I noticed somebody in the comments section said they were surprised that CleanSpark didn't put theirs out today. I am also surprised. The third day of the month is pretty typical for them. So I really thought we would get their numbers, and I'm very, very curious to see what CleanSpark's numbers are, because I think they have a reasonable chance of coming in first place this month in the number of Bitcoin mined out of all publicly traded companies, something no company other than Marathon has done for the last couple of years. So there's one little window here, because Marathon's put out their results. We'll look at that. Riot's put out their results. They'll look at that. Both of those companies are heavily reliant on Texas, which there was a lot of curtailment this month. So, those are the months where that window of opportunity opens up for maybe CleanSpark to overtake Marathon, just in that 1 month. And they tend to be an extremely efficient Bitcoin miner, CleanSpark. So, and they're spread out over a lot more facilities, over different spots. They're really not centralized in Texas at all. So they didn't have to participate in that curtailment. So I'm patiently waiting. But let's go look at who has reported, and we'll talk about the few that we did get. So Marathon reported, and we'll take a look at these reports, but I'm going to look at the summary sheet first. Marathon went 713 Bitcoin this month. That's down from 950 last month. Now, 2 months ago, they were at 705. So a couple of different things are happening. Number one, last month was an anomaly. They said right in their monthly operational update, they got lucky. Luck is a factor in mining Bitcoin, and they got very lucky. So that was a piece of the puzzle. This month, conversely, they did not get lucky, and they had a lot of curtailment, like we were just talking about, due to weather, and they had some other issues that they said they've resolved by the end of the month. So that results in 713 Bitcoin mined. Now, CleanSpark mined 694 last month. And we know they went from 45.6 exahash in May. We know that on June 24th, they announced they were at 50 exahash. So can they, so far, nobody that's reported has been able to keep up with their May results. And there's two good reasons for that. Number one, the smaller reason, there's one less day in June, and that matters. So, you know, that's 3% right there. But in addition to that, there was that gigantic hike in the difficulty level. That's been undone. We're going to look at, we just had our next difficulty level adjustment, and it was the largest adjustment down since 2001 when China made everybody turn their machines off. So, you know, we had a historic reduction. So I think July numbers are going to look really good, but these June numbers, so far, nobody has been able to keep pace with May. Riot mined 450 again. They're completely in Texas. So that's down from 514. So that, I'm sure, was due to some curtailment. They added 0.1 exahash, so they didn't really add very much to what they're doing. From an infrastructure standpoint, and I warned everybody a couple of months ago, they've already told us at the beginning of this year, they're only looking to get to 38 by the end of the year. So don't look to see massive increases in exahash from Riot, and don't look to see massive increases in the amount they've mined. I think they're very comfortably locked into fourth place here, and I don't think anybody has a chance of catching up, but I think they're going to stay in fourth all year in all likelihood, unless something unusual happens. Now, that doesn't mean that they're the fourth biggest market cap or they're the fourth best company. There's a lot of other variables involved in that. All these companies have dynamic, different ways they go about doing this, and other revenue streams, you know, most specifically high performance computing. A lot of these companies are moving into. So, you know, there's a lot of different variables, but strictly from a number of Bitcoin mine standpoint, I think you're going to see Riot in fourth place every single month the rest of the year. I don't see any scenario where anybody can catch them, and I don't see any scenario where they can catch any of the three above them, because CleanSpark and IREN have already announced they're at 50 exahash, and Marathon, you can see, was at 57.4 exahash in June. That's down from May, but let me go to the Marathon, and let's go through a couple of these reports. But first we'll go, so Core Scientific, they do not put out a monthly operational report anymore. So my other analysis that's more comprehensive, I can't include them anymore. However, they do put the information on a daily basis. They put out how many Bitcoin they've mined that day, month to date, year to date, etc. So they did mine 187 Bitcoin in June. But again, that was a decrease of 17%. So you can see Marathon, a decrease of 25%, Riot, 12%, Core Scientific, a decrease of 17%. CIFR, which added 3.3 exahash. They're now at 16.8 exahash. They down 11% month over month. So it may be a combination of the fact that this exahash was added late in the month, which I believe it was. They announced it. And the other factors we talked about, there's one less day, the difficulty level went up. So June, I think I wouldn't be surprised if, we're red across the board in June. But I do think with CleanSpark having added 4.4 exahash, if they can be a little bit in the green, they could pass Marathon and finish in first place in June. Nobody's passed Marathon in, a long time. And I don't think it'll happen going forward, short of months where they have some dramatic curtailment if there's severe weather in Texas. So a little opportunity, and let's just run a little poll. All right, welcome to Talking Investing. I'm going to get to Old Jack in a second. I just want to explain the poll. Who mined the most Bitcoin in June? So June's over. These guys know their numbers. They haven't told them to us yet. Is it going to be Marathon business as usual? That's been every month for, at least 18 months in a row. Or CleanSpark, which announced they got to 50 exahash, or IREN, which also announced they got to 50 exahash this month. And you can see, although they have not put out their monthly operational report, I will show you they did inform us they're at 50 exahash. They went into May at 41 exahash. They added 9 exahash. So CleanSpark added almost 4.5 exahash. IREN added 9 exahash. They closed the gap. And because Marathon had a lot of curtailment, both of these companies potentially could mine more Bitcoin than Marathon. I think it's still, Marathon's the odds-on favorite, but I also think it's going to be exceptionally close. Old Jack, member for 29 months. Thank you very much, Old Jack. 11 green days in a row for IREN. And even talk of possible 100x over the next 5 years due to their HPC potential. IREN is on fire. Let's go look at the charts next. We're going to look at what everybody's done this week, this month, last month, this year to date. IREN has taken off. And I will tell you, I was debating selling my position in IREN, and I changed that. Instead of selling that, I was going to sell that and buy Hive. Now, Hive's done very well since then. But instead, I put a stop loss on, and I'm wildly profitable on my IREN position. So some of my positions, I'm still red. I have one position left that's in the red, even after the great run everything's taken, and that is the lowly Bitfarms. But everything else I have is in the green, and I mean, I'm ridiculously in the green on my IREN, which is why I want to take profits. And the other reason is let's go to this chart. If you look at IREN on the 1-day RSI, this green line here at 86.9, that's the highest they've ever been on the daily RSI in the history of their company. Now, so we understand that history goes back to 2021. This is a fairly new stock, but you're talking about, almost 4 years of history. That is the highest they've ever been. Today, they closed above that on the daily RSI. So they just set a new all-time record for the daily RSI. The system defaults to 70 as being the beginning of overbought territory where your risk may be a pullback. I have always said for cryptocurrency, I think that line is more like 80. But we're at 87 now. And at some point, we're going to get a pullback in IREN. That doesn't mean that it's not on its way to much, much, much higher places. But on the members only stream, we showed the last 4 times IREN got up to this blue line below this, never mind this green line. The last 4 times that happened, what followed immediately every single time was a 60% or more pullback in the price of IREN stock. 4 for 4. So that is a little worrisome as a trend. Now, past performance, yada, yada. So, you know, IREN's got a lot of good things going on. So maybe that's not going to happen this time, but there is reason to be concerned. This is the most overbought stock out of all the Bitcoin miners by a mile. And at some point, this run will end. Now, maybe what it will end with is a period of consolidation instead of a 60% pullback, and that would be just fine. So we'll see. But I did, you know, I have a stop loss in. I'm not giving back. I have ridden up and down on this stock and given back a lot of gains. I'm not doing that this time. It's up so much. And to put it in perspective, I mean, if you go back to April 9th, right, that's just not, what's that, not even 3 months ago.
I got a great poll question after this one.
IREN's up 225%. By the way, if you sold at the top today, it was at up 258% in less than 3 months. So when I say this thing has run, like this has run. And by the way, it is the very first Bitcoin miner to take out its previous high from this cycle. So back in December of 2024, most of these companies in November or December of 2024 or January or February of 2025 peaked, and they've fallen way back from those numbers. This is the first company, and you can see this is the first day they closed above their previous high from this cycle. So you could argue that's a breakout, and there could be a big run ahead. It's just they're so overbought already, I'm a little conflicted. But this price action is, I mean, you can't complain about this. This is incredible. And we might as well just finish out with IREN and go take a look at, actually, they put 2 things out. The second thing I want to look at. The first one on June 30th. So they had promised at the beginning of the year and multiple times since that they were going to get to 50 exahash by June 30th. So they put out a press release on June 30th. IREN achieves mid-year target of 50 exahash. So it's only Marathon, CleanSpark, and IREN that have 50 exahash. It drops all the way down to 35 exahash is the next closest, which is Riot. And then after that, nobody has even 20 exahash. So this drops off a cliff after the big 3. Now, there is a difference between these 3. IREN has said, and they told us this in advance, so this is not switching gears, we're going to get to 50, we're going to get there fast, and then we are going to focus completely on our high-performance computing AI business. They don't hodl, they sell all their Bitcoin, and they told us a few months ago, we're taking all the cash generated from that Bitcoin, and this company's profitable. Not just cash flow positive, they were gap profitable in the first quarter of 2025 when Bitcoin was trading in the 80,000 range. So they're going to be very profitable when these next financial statements come out. So they've got that good news ahead of them. And they're trying to grow out. You can see they've since December of 2022, so 23, 24, and half of 25, that's 2.5 years, they have 50x'd their exahash. They went from 1 to 50. So a little under 50 exahash in reality because they were at 1.1, but effectively they've about 50x'd the size of their company. So this is the reason why they're hitting new all-time highs. They also announced, I think this might have been today or yesterday, let's see, July 3rd, IREN expands AI cloud with 2.4K NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs. The new B200s and the B300 fleet lifts the total to 4.3 thousand GPUs. And they go on to talk about they plan on growing this significantly more. So let's see. IREN expects the deployment to deliver attractive risk-adjusted returns on a standalone basis while simultaneously supporting active discussions across its AI data center business. IREN vertically integrated platform underpinned by 2,910 megawatts of grid-connected power. Now, that's what's under contract. That's not up and running, but they have almost 3 gigawatts under contract, and they have already said they're going to allocate a lot of that to high-performance computing. And that leaves enough room to grow both businesses, right? They just grew their Bitcoin business to 50 exahash. They're one of the big 3 now. And now they can switch gears and grow their high performance computing. And I will tell you, IREN's been telling us for years, 2 years ago on a quarterly conference call, the CEO said, we don't even consider ourselves a Bitcoin mining company. We are a data center company. That is where our area of expertise is. That's why we do so well at what we do. We are experts at data centers. So the fact that they're leaning into creating data centers for high performance computing is no surprise at all. Now, it's hard to say you're not a Bitcoin miner when, 99% of your revenue comes from mining Bitcoin, but you get his point is that this is what they do and they're good at it. And I gotta believe them because they've proven it. They've earned the benefit of the doubt from me and obviously from the marketplace, because now we'll go look at what all these guys have done over the course of the last month. But first, if you could be so kind as to smash the like button, get this stream out to everybody.
Tommy, you need to take a breath and take some water.
Have I been on a roll?
You are on a roll.
Go take it, George.
Take the reins.
Yes, please.
Dude, I'm 4th of July ready. I'm not even thinking about anything.
You've shifted into vacation mode. I think
I'm in vacation mode, guys. I'm just
well, that's why we're doing the stream today instead. Can you imagine had we done it tomorrow? We would have had 5 people here.
Yeah, I know, really.
So,
can you imagine? Oh my goodness.
Be talking to ourselves.
I just cannot believe Cleanspark didn't report today.
I know. I almost want to go.
I almost want to get him on the phone.
I'm gonna
answer.
I'm just gonna refresh and see. No, sometimes you never know. They do it late in the day, but they still have not.
It's
still have not
simple
reported.
As the guy's on vacation this week.
Oh, that could be.
You know what I mean?
And this is the one I'm really anticipating, because you can see they put this out. Here's their last press release. So we just looked at IREN telling us they got to 50 exahash. They said that on June 30th. Well, 1 week before that, Cleanspark said they got to 50 exahash. Having said that, there is a difference. IREN told us they were going to get to 50 exahash and take a long break and focus on high performance computing. Cleanspark is a pure play on Bitcoin. They mine Bitcoin, they hodl Bitcoin, and that is what they do. They have nothing else. They're 100% pure play focused on Bitcoin. There's others that are extremely concentrated on Bitcoin. This is the only absolute pure play out of all of them. And they have said the following: as we look to the future, Cleanspark has laid the foundation to achieve 60 exahash and beyond. So whereas IREN's going to take a little time out here, Cleanspark's going to keep going. So 50 is just a stop along the way. Their next stop they're looking at is 60 and then beyond. But I want to go to what Marathon said, because they took it a step further than that.
The
If
most they would be able to do would be 705 this past June.
705,
Yeah.
that wouldn't get it.
Oh, it wouldn't?
I think Marathon did 713.
Oh, really? Yeah. So if you look at the single high in May was 23.5, and they achieved the 50 exahash.
So 23.
Yeah, so
23.
23.5 times 30, right?
They reported that was their highest.
Yeah. In May, the highest was 23.5 after already going to 50 exahash.
So then they're not going to get it.
Yeah.
That's going to be our answer. It's a Marathon. Even though they dramatic 25% pullback, it looks like they're still going to hang on our vote. We got
It's
Marathon.
yeah, if I had to guess, and there's no way they didn't curtail because of the hotness in Atlanta.
Right, you're there, so you know, but it wasn't as bad as Texas. Although it was pretty darn hot there. It's pretty darn hot here. It's hot all over. Who mined the most Bitcoin in June? So we'll end this poll. Half of you think it was Marathon. It's been Marathon for a year and a half. It's going to be Marathon. Other than a rare exception, like a window like this where somebody might steal it for 1 month, it's going to be Marathon for the indefinite future. Because what I was just going to show you is Marathon put out in their monthly press release, they're targeting 75 exahash by the end of the year. So we got IREN at 50. We got CleanSpark at 50, targeting 60. We got Marathon at 57, targeting 75. Those are your big three. No one's catching those for a long time. There are other companies that over the next 2 or 3 or 4 years have big plans, but we'll see. I find it hard to believe anybody's going to catch those three.
You ready for the next poll, Tom?
I am. I'll end this one if you want to do the next one.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not on your page. Can you do it real quick?
Oh, absolutely.
Who here is a Bitcoin Maximus versus, so does that make sense? I don't know how to word it.
Yeah.
Versus other crypto. Only believe in Bitcoin and nothing else. I would imagine a lot of people are. There's only one reason why I'm not, and as you do that poll, and I'll tell people I'm not, is because of the cost. It's so damn expensive to use it. And there's other coins out there, XRP, that isn't.
Should I just leave it at yes or no? I was going to add a third option, but I don't think we need to confuse things. This is a yes or no question.
Or no, yeah.
So let's, why isn't it letting me start?
Believe that the only crypto there is really is Bitcoin. There's no other one. Be your own bank. You know what I mean?
So I said, who is a Bitcoin maximalist? No altcoins. So that means you don't care about Ethereum. You don't care about XRP. You believe Bitcoin is the future. And that's a big group. You guys all are aware. I mean, there's a lot of Bitcoin maximalists out there. I was going to add a third category because I feel like I'm in that category. I'm super overweight Bitcoin, but I do believe there's a handful of other tokens and coins and blockchains that have a solid use case. They've already begun implementing that use case, and they have a solid community. If they have both of those things, there's some staying power there. They need adoption. Some of them, XRP has a lot of adoption, right? It's hard to say XRP is not real at this point. To me,
yeah,
Ethereum.
I said that 2 years ago. It was hard for me to believe, and to me, it made sense that the SEC was suing them to keep the price down. I mean, you people don't realize what people will go through so that you and I don't make money.
It's exactly right.
I mean, if you only heard the stories, and here's what's really sad: they want the $5 in your grandma's purse.
They want it all.
They want it all.
They
don't
want it
you to
all.
have anything.
And unfortunately, if you look at what they're doing, they're getting it all.
Right. So, and this is how I answer the question, by the way. I'm not a maximist, but so Bitcoin represents how much of the whole crypto world right now? Like 55, 60%?
Bitcoin,
Yeah.
I think there are
Higher?
Bitcoin
70?
dominances at 65 plus or minus. Let's look. Let's find that number. We got that number.
You're like what I did. In the beginning, I put in 65% of my money in Bitcoin, and then I put 35% of my money in altcoins. But over the time now, my Bitcoin hasn't done what I needed it to do with XRP, because XRP at the time I did this is now I'm outbalanced. I wonder if I should readjust that, Tom.
Bitcoin dominance is at 65.27. So it is still super high. I don't know. I mean, to me, I think XRP has a lot more upside. I see we have one person who strenuously disagrees. Brett says it's trash, Tom. XRP is trash, George. So I mean, I've done a lot of research on it, and that doesn't mean that I'm right, because I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again. But I'm a believer. There's already a lot of the rest of the world's already using XRP. I know we're way behind, and
Canada is a great example. You know?
I've got 2 articles. We should go through some of the XRP. Let me do that right now, because I got a couple. They got stuff going on. Give me a minute to find them. Okay, first and foremost, Ripple/XRP is dropping their appeal against the SEC, ending years-long legal battles. The SEC's dropping theirs. Ripple's dropping theirs. They had a judge do something what in my mind was ludicrously unreasonable, which was they both agreed to settle for $50 million, and a judge said, nope, I'm rejecting it. You already settled on $200 million or $125 million. Now, understand, XRP or Ripple settled for $125 million on a $2 billion lawsuit. So that is pennies on the dollar already. But the fact is, the reason that the SEC was willing to drop this down to 50, and they should have dropped it to 0, is because they dropped all their other cases. They didn't settle any of them. So Ripple, unfortunately, got caught because they were the first case. They were the furthest along. They had made a settlement. And if they hadn't, this thing would have gotten dropped altogether and would be gone. But you know what? At this point, they've said, instead of having this hang over our head, it's already been hanging over our head for 5 years. Instead of continuing, we'll pay the $125 million and move on to bigger and better things. So this, at long last, is 100% done. Now, remember, for years, you couldn't even buy Ripple legally in the United States.
And I still did.
That's a lot of people wanted access to it, and it was unreasonable.
And I can tell you, when like Brent would come on and rip on me about XRP way back when, and one of the great things was I was down. It really hurt, by the way, because I was down like almost $100,000 at one point in time on XRP.
Wow.
Yeah. And guess what I did?
I know you don't even want to tell people how much you're up right now.
No. It's Chris. It's insane. But I stayed the course, and I invested my $2,500. You know, and that just was the key. And I just kept doing it, and I love it. And it's the best. I'm telling you, people don't realize what XRP is going to do.
So here's the next article. Ripple applies for federal bank trust charter. They want to be a bank. The application follows
to be a bank.
The application follows stablecoin issuer Circle's similar effort. So I do have another article, Circle, 2 days before this came out, an article came out that Circle is applying for a bank charter. So I think you're going to see Ripple and Circle get bank charters. And this is all a part of Choke Point 2.0 is over. That iron wall they wanted to build.
I don't think it's really over, Tom, because, you used to be able to get crypto on your Visa or MasterCard. I don't think that's changed.
Well, you're right. It's not over, but it's on the way out. We are seeing a lot of adoption of the ability to turn fiat money into crypto money, the ability to use crypto money as a form of payment, right? And if Ripple's a bank, if Circle's a bank, you're seeing JP Morgan just opened, the ultimate Bitcoin haters just opened an entire new division, JP Morgan Digital, to offer the full spectrum of digital services. So you're seeing both sides. You're seeing crypto companies turning into banks. You're seeing banks want access to the crypto space. You've got SoFi that jumped back into this space in a big way. You've got Robinhood that's in there huge already. So, and it's only just beginning.
I just cannot believe they have not given their numbers. CleanSpark.
Yeah, and especially since it's a long weekend, that means we have to wait until 4, 5, 6, 7. July 7th is the soonest they can give it to us now at this point, I guess. I guess they could do it on a day off. Who knows? Who knows?
Probably a good Tom. Did you find an article on FTX or no?
No, I did not.
Okay. FTX is going to be selling their crypto, and I guess they sold 50 million this week, and next week they are authorized to sell up to 200 million until they sell everything. Doesn't mean they're going to sell 200 million, but
that's a constant sell pressure on some of this stuff. So we'll see if that affects the markets over the next couple of weeks. I want to go to okay, let's get to it. In this short week, 4 days, you are looking at what the Bitcoin miners did. What did Bitcoin do? It was up 2%. Okay, that's good. Look at the Bitcoin miners. CIFR up 42%. That's this week. That's these 4 days. Bitfarms 36%. And I will tell you, I was on the verge of making a trade out of Bitfarms into Hive. Now, Hive's right behind them, up 28%, so it's not like it would have been a nightmare, but I'm glad I stuck with my Bitfarms because I already have a nice position in Hive. So Bitfarms up 36% to get over $1, where, let's be honest, nobody thought they were getting back over $1. And certainly nobody thought they were getting back over $1 this week. That's our next poll. And if we're honest with ourselves, I didn't think they'd get back over $1 this week. I've said every single stream, I'm confident they'll get back over $1, but this fast was shocking to me. So let's take a look at this poll. Who is a Bitcoin maximalist? 55%. Over half of the people here are Bitcoin maximalists. So I guess that's not shocking. And I'm whatever's one. I took the exit one stop short of being a maximalist, my conviction in Bitcoin far exceeds my conviction in the next closest thing, which is XRP. And in third place is I don't know what. I have a basket of them that I'm looking at, and I can't really get ultra comfortable with any of them, including Ethereum. So that's just me. So we'll end that poll.
I've been drinking a lot of water, so I gotta run to the bathroom.
Okay.
I'm looking. I'm going.
Typing the poll. Okay, so be honest. I mean, now we know it's actually happened. Now, that doesn't mean they're out of the woods, right? They could go back under $1 on Monday. But who thought that Bitfarms would get back to $1 without a reverse stock split? And remember, it was only just a few days ago. Let me find that. They had their annual shareholders meeting on July 1st, 2 days ago, where with votes for 202 million and votes against 41 million, they authorized a 1-to-10 reverse stock split. And they gave themselves a 2-year window until June 30th, 2027 to do a reverse stock split if necessary. So this was at a fever pitch, right? And this won over. You can tell shareholders thought they were going to need to do it because 202 million of them said, yes, you're authorized to do that. So now everybody's going to be on board that Bitfarms was great. But I can tell you, I've gotten 0 prior to today. In the last 6 months, I have had 0 comments from even one single person saying that Bitfarms was a good company and they were worth holding. And I understand why. Right? They fell down in a lot of ways. They didn't do what they said they were going to do, and that's my number one thing. That's the biggest strike you can have against you. You know, if you're a little off course and you're very timely about explaining it, and you're better late than never, I understand that. But they fundamentally shifted. They were going to get to 35 exahash in 2025. And they fundamentally shifted and said, no, we're done. We're at just about 20 exahash. We're not adding any more to our exahash. We are the same thing IREN's doing. They're going to completely focus on their high performance computing. So that's a fundamental shift in what they did. I don't view that as a fundamental shift for IREN, even though they're doing the same thing, because they went and ran and got to the 50 exahash they said they were going to get to. They got well beyond where Bitfarms said they were going to get. So if they want to invest in what could potentially be a very big second revenue stream, I think they've earned that luxury by getting themselves up to 50 exahash in a profitable manner. So to me, that makes sense. Bitfarms hasn't done the same thing. So I get the negativity surrounding it. Right, I have my doubts myself. I'm looking for the off ramp. I just think there's more run ahead on Bitfarms. I don't think this is done, because my biggest fear was that Riot had so many shares. Riot had put out a filing with the SEC that they were going to sell all 90 million of their shares. Well, recently they put out, if I can find it. Okay, so recently, on July 1st, 2 days ago, they filed this with the SEC. They're no longer at just under 91 million shares. They're now at 68 million shares. So they've managed to sell a bunch of shares. That was as of July 1st. And I'm here to tell you, if we look, let me go look at it. This is yesterday's chart. I screenshotted yesterday's big board. Who was the winner yesterday? Bitfarms, up almost 20% yesterday. But that's not all, because, and this is why I'm encouraged. If you go to, let me go to historical data. Look at what their share sales have been since Riot said they were going to sell. 7 million, 11 million, 7 million, 13 million, 8 million, 13 million. Yesterday, they sold 52 million shares. Right? That is massive. That's multiples. You compare just a few days earlier, they sold less than 6 million. So, that's 8 times as many shares. So Riot was already down to 68 million. They could have gotten rid of 5, 10, 15, 20 million shares easily on a day where Bitfarms is trading 52 million shares. If they're going to trade 50 million shares a day, Riot can get through this quickly. My fear was at 8 or 9 or 10 million shares a day, it was going to take 3 months for Riot to dump their stock, and that was going to be continuous, relentless sell pressure. But the opposite happened. On their giant volume day, they were up 20%. They went through the roof, and that tells me that the sell pressure is over. Now, obviously, this could turn around tomorrow. It wouldn't be the first time. These are very, very, I'll say what we always say. This is the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, altcoins even more so. This is the most volatile place in the whole world of investing. So if you can't handle volatility, if it's not for you, then you should not be in these, because they will be volatile, as we've seen. But to me, the worst for Bitfarms is behind them. I think they just turned the corner. And this stock, I'm going to go to their chart, because you're going to see how unreasonably this fell. Even after this giant run up, this is only a $500 million company. Right, this, I got to really zoom out to show you. This goes back to December 2023. This goes back to February 2024. So, that's 15, 16, 17 months ago now. But that was this bull run. In this bull run, Bitfarms got up to $3.91. They're at $1 right now. So I'm not going to get excited and sell all my shares right now. The only what I had planned to do, and I said if I sell them, I'm going to buy them back. I saw this red line right here at 68 cents as an outstanding line of support. I did not think we would go below that line of support. So my thought process was, I'll get out, I'll come back in when, we approach this, and I wouldn't wait until 68 cents, maybe at 72 cents, come back in or whatever. But you know what? That didn't happen. Now, maybe it will happen. Maybe that's what's next. I don't know, but I don't think so, because I think we've regained this line at $1. And on monumental volume, that's capitulation. When you see that gigantic volume, that tells you whatever was going on, that's over. Now the next thing's happening. So I feel very good about where Bitfarms is at. This $1.50 line is still ridiculously low. Now, I'll probably start to take profits at $1.50. Between $1.50 and it could easily get back right in November. This was at $2.76. I mean, these are not unreasonable price targets. But there's a big difference. Even if I wait from $1 to $1.50, that's a 50% increase that I'm going to pick up. That means I'll go from being in the red where I am right now to making a profit on this. And I think that they will compete with the rest of the Bitcoin miners, right? If they do that, but they get there much, much slower than the rest of the Bitcoin miners, then I'd be better off selling and buying something else. But I think they've had their pain. So let's go back here. Oh, not there. There. Here. If we look year to date, You're going to see Bitfarms is down 32% this year. They're the second worst performing. And by the way, they just got out of the bottom for a solid 3 months. They were the worst performing Bitcoin miner. And it was dramatically worse than this. But I want everybody to look at this chart, because this is the chart that I said when it was 100% red. And I'm going to show it to you. I said, I think we're not going to have 100% winners, but I think the vast majority of these companies are not only going to go green, but they're going to pass Bitcoin in their performance. Well, this has happened very quickly. We already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 companies that are outperforming Bitcoin, and then 6 and 7 that have turned green. And I'm going to go turn the clock back just 3 months ago. I'm going to go back to Friday, April 4th, because I call April 8th the bottom, which was the Tuesday of the following week. So this is basically the bottom. And this chart right here, this big green chart with everything that looks okay other than Bitfarms and BitDR, this is where we were sitting 3 months ago. And sentiment was low. Everybody was depressed. It was the end of the world. These were never going to recover. This was all dead money. Everyone was an idiot. And this is when I was saying, right? This is the painful part. It's hard. And I know this was the 50th buying opportunity. It was getting exhausting, right? And I get anybody that bailed out. I get it. Like the pressure. This is what they do to us. So they flushed everybody out with this right here. And it was, I literally said on the 8th, and then again on the 22nd of April, I said, these are bottoms. We are going to run from here. Now, obviously I can't predict the future, but sometimes the data is lining up in a way where an outcome becomes likely or highly likely. It's never guaranteed. So just to understand, nothing's ever guaranteed in the stock market. But you can start to see scenarios where things become highly likely. Look at where these companies were. Right? Go ahead, George.
No, I went in to look at the 10K challenge,
Yeah.
And I sold my Bitfarms like a few days ago. Yeah. But anyways, I haven't done anything right at all. So they closed the account and said account restrictions due to unusual account activity. I haven't done anything in like over a year.
So they froze the account?
Yeah. So I got to call them.
That is just crazy.
It's insane. Sorry.
Unbelievable. But if you're looking at this, right, and we were all together looking at this, and we were saying, this is a disaster. Bitcoin down 10%. That's not a disaster. Okay. A rough start to the year, but down 10%. That's within a range of its all-time high. But the next closest, the best Bitcoin miner, was down 21%. You'll see the median here was very close to 50% down on the year. You had Bitfarms, Core Scientific, Hive, Wolf, CIFR, and BitDR between 48% and 63% down. Some of these companies right here are green right now. Right? Let's look at, I'm going to pick these two here. One, because I know the answer for Hive, and I want to show you the run that Hive has taken, which is spectacular. 3 months ago, Hive was down 40% on the year, and HUT was down 44% on the year. Let's take a look at where they are now. So if you had invested on this day, or any time within a month plus or minus of this, instead of down 40 and 44, HUT's now green. So HUT is not down 44% anymore. They're up 7% on the year. IREN's not down 40% anymore. They're up 71% on the year. That is a dramatic turnaround. And if we take a look, because it's more than it even sounds like, in order to do that, they had to go up from the bottom. Let's go to that day. April 8th was the day that I said was the bottom. To the close today, that's up 221%. And intraday, it was up 254%. That's in 3 months. So this period right here is when big money lied to us, fooled us, drove everybody out, bought all of our shares at these low numbers, and they made this 200% run up while we all missed it. Now, I know when I say we, a lot of people here did catch it. You guys are the few, the proud that stuck with this. But trust me, there used to be 500 or 600 or 700 people here watching this, and we've got exactly 100 right now. So most of the people are gone. They gave up and they left at the lows. So this is classic buy high, sell low. This is what they do to us. And if you can't wait them out, then you're gonna lose. But now
wait them out.
It's I mean, am I wrong?
No, and it's so hard. Remember when we first got into this, this was wow. When did we start doing this? 22, 21?
It was actually at either the end of 2020 or the beginning of 2021.
Okay, so 2021. And my advice from a financial planner was do a lot of research and do the exact opposite of what you decide to do. And you'll win every time.
That seems like the truth. Bitcoin to 150K said, we are the diamond hands. That's right. And it paid off. And I'll tell you, everybody laughed at I can't tell you the names that I've been called in the chat over the last 3 months.
Friend. Thanks for the good advice.
I don't know. I don't remember any of those. But credit goes to you guys that are here, right? I mean, George and I are here talking, but you guys are the ones, everyone that's invested, you're the ones that put your money at risk. You did your research, you held your conviction, and you're finally getting rewarded. And I think there's a lot more reward ahead. But again, with volatility. So don't get scared away. The volatility does happen, and it can be dramatic and shocking and all that stuff. So we still have two big underperformers. Bitfarms down 32%, BitDR down 36%. Now, to be fair, I want to show you two things. Number one, three months ago, BitDR was down 63%. Now they're down 36%. So they've had a big comeback. But I want to show you something that happened that I think accounts for all of this. Last December, Bitcoin was down 4%. Every Bitcoin miner got wrecked. I mean, this is 1 month. This is just December of 2024. Marathon down 39%. BitDigital 36, CleanSpark 36. I mean, 30% was the average here that they were down for the month. And for some reason, BitDR was up 52%. So I think it has spent the last 6 months making up for whatever anomaly happened here in December. And I called this out when it happened. It's like, this is not a little variance. This is radically different performance than the rest of their entire industry. And up 50% in 1 month is a gigantic move. So what's happened the next 6 months following this phenomenal month? They've had 6 bad months. So there is some explanation to that. I don't think BitDR is a bad company. In fact, it's if I buy anymore, and I said I was done buying, but if I and I'm done buying all the positions I hold. If I were to open a position, my next position would be BitDR. Because I think after all that pullback, you know, they're doing some stuff no one else is doing, and it would be a diversification play because they make the hardware themselves, and they're touting some machines that they say are going to be incredibly efficient. So, you know, multiple lines of revenue, they're growing rapidly. So I like what they're doing, despite the fact that, you know, if you look at them right now, Their year to date they're down 36%. But it's important to remember, this was this week. Like this week, CIFR was up 42% this week. Bitfarms was up 36% this week. These are gigantic, gigantic numbers. And by the way, last week was this was last week. So coming off of a giant week, right? IREN was up 34% last week, and it was up another 20% on top of that this week, right? This is a spectacular run we're in the middle of. And we do have, I'll show you this chart from the previous high of this cycle until now. We finally have, and I just showed you the chart, IREN is now in the green. They have taken out their previous all-time high. Bitcoin is almost exactly at its all-time, and that's when it hit 109. So it was almost exactly there. Core Scientific is extremely close, but you'll see most of these companies, even CleanSpark has to double just to get back to where it was a year ago in this bull market. And in that time, CleanSpark has doubled their exahash. They're, every single month for the last year, the second most Bitcoin mined. They have the second most efficient fleet from a joules per terahash standpoint. Their HODL position is likely going to be over 13,000 when they report next week. To me, as a Bitcoin mining company, they're doing everything you could possibly ask them to do. And yet they have to double just to get back to their highs from this cycle, which, by the way, is nowhere near their high from the previous cycle. That's just to get back to where they were. So that's why I'm saying I do think when you look at a chart like this, there's a lot of room left. And then you say, well, none of these are ever going to get back to their highs because, these are all dead. Well, IREN just did. They just took out their previous all-time high, or their previous high from this run. And we saw a breakout. This was the first day they closed above their previous. We'll go back and revisit that for those of you who weren't here. This was their previous high in this run. Their all-time high is $28, so that's much higher. So, they could double again. Even after this 220-something% run that they just had. But you'll see today is the first day they closed above this previous high. So they are in a breakout. Now, they're also overbought beyond belief on the daily RSI. So I would not be surprised to see some sideways price action or a pullback. But other charts will catch up. So if I do the same thing to CleanSpark, so this yellow line's the same yellow line we just looked at. IREN, they're past their yellow line. CleanSpark, they're here. CleanSpark's got to go up 50% to get to their previous high from this cycle. That is not their all-time high, right? If we go back, they traded in this range, bumping up against, over 20 for a long time. So, and that wasn't their high. At one point, this company was at $42. I'm not saying it's getting back to $42, but what I'm saying is way down here, this is a lot closer to the bottom than it is to the top. So I think there's a lot of room left in these companies. Marathon, where are they versus their yellow line? Right? And again, I'm using this yellow line because IREN already proved this can be done. They passed the yellow line, which was the highs from back in late 2024 when all these companies hit a local high. So IREN's already their proof of work, proof of case. They've already done it. Marathon's got to go up 70% just to get back to where it was. And then to me, when they can get back there, that line of resistance is going to turn into support and they'll run from there. So that's how much I think is left in all of these stocks. It's very hard to believe. It's been very discouraging. And I get why people quit, but I'm just trying to show you these are the real numbers, and there's a lot of room. There's a lot of room left. None of these other companies are anywhere near where they were just a year ago. I mean, where was Bitcoin a year ago? Bitcoin was at like 80,000, and Marathon had 20 less exahash than they do today. So Bitcoin's drastically up from here. Marathon's drastically bigger in size, and yet their stock has to increase 70% to get back to where they were. So that tells me there's room. Riot, nowhere near their line. CIFR does not have a line, but they're actually creeping up. Right, if we go back here, that's still 27% for CIFR to get back to where they were. BitDR, even after a couple of huge days here, BitDR's got to almost double to get back to where it was in January of 2025. So my point is, for the companies that are going to be the winners, I think there's a lot of room left to the upside. We'll end this poll. Who thought Bitfarms would get back to $1 without a reverse stock split? 65% of you said you thought they would get there. 35% of you said you thought they would not get there. I guess it was a vocal minority in the chat over the last 3 months that was adamant that Bitfarms was garbage.
Did you hear me?
No, what'd you say?
I said,
You're not saying it.
no, I'm just spitting what I said about Bitcoin. I'm spitting it.
I gotcha. Listen, Bitcoin was brutal. There was every reason to believe Bitcoin was going to 68 cents and maybe even get worse than that. But it didn't happen. The opposite happened. And this is what always happens. Whatever you think is going to happen, like George said, be careful because, a lot of times it's the exact opposite. I want to talk about Hut 8 for a minute, too, because they're back in the news. Somewhere. They're back in the news somewhere. Hut 8 secures 5-year capacity contract for 310 megawatts of power generation assets. So Hut 8, at this point, we talked about this on the members only. Hut 8, they're moving their entire Bitcoin mining operations, not the hosting, but the actual mining, to a subsidiary. That subsidiary is merging with Griffin, which is already a publicly traded company. So the Bitcoin portion of Hut 8 is really going to end up in a different company. And that company is American. I think it's American Bitcoin. Let's find the name of it here, because this is another press release. Okay, so this just came out on June 24th. So quietly behind the scenes, Hut 8, through their subsidiary, did an unregistered sale of equities. So they raised money privately through their privately held subsidiary that they own 80% of. They raised over $200 million. American Bitcoin Corp. So this subsidiary, which Hut 8 owns 80% of, is going to merge with Griffin. The American Bitcoin portion of that equation, I think, is going to be account for 98% of the outstanding shares of the combined company. So effectively, it's this company. American Bitcoin will then be a publicly traded Bitcoin company, and their HODL position and their Bitcoin mining operations, I think, when that happens, they will start reporting that, as Hut 8 has stopped because they're not doing it anymore. I think we're going to see American Bitcoin Corp start to report that. And what they're looking to do is get there was a third thing that I don't think I have open anymore. Oh, actually, I think it's in here. Let's see. No, there's a third report that they have options on. They're at 10 exahash, and they have options on another 15 exahash of Bitmain machines that Bitmain is already going to install. Regardless, they're going to install them in Hut 8's facilities and pay for hosting, with the option for American Bitcoin to buy those machines and own them. So that would get American Bitcoin up to 25 exahash, maybe sometime late this year or early next year. So that's the plan with all of that. In addition to that, they did get, and they popped on this. They got a nice announcement that they've got a contract. Now, they didn't talk dollars. They talked generically 530 Canadian dollars per kilowatt business day in year one, with an inflation index that makes that go up from there. It would have been nice if they said this is a contract that has the potential for, I calculated it out, it looked like over 5 years, maybe if everything went perfectly, this could be a $300 million contract. You'll have to double check me on that, because they kind of left some sketchy details here to get a real number. They should have just said a number. But it's a significant contract, and this is who they are now, and this is what they do. And if we look at them, year to date, Hut is now green. So, right, they're a different company. They're not a Bitcoin miner anymore, but they do seem to be having some success at what they're doing. Old Jock is saying, study the fundamentals and make sure you can maintain your patience. That is the bottom line. Katie's asking, will CleanSpark hit $20 this year? If I knew the answer to that, that's where all my money would go. I think there's a reasonable chance that it could. And I'm going to go back to the IREN chart, because even a few, this was 1 month ago, IREN was trading at $8. It's doubled since then. And in fact, it got over $18 today. So at $8, if you would have said, could IREN get to $20 by the end of the year? Well, it practically got there within a month. So there's no reason to believe that CleanSpark can't take the same run, right? They've had a nice run from the bottom. They're up 88% from where they were on April 8th, which to me, that was the day we called the bottom. 88% is a great run from the high of intraday today, 99, basically 100%. So intraday, they were a double from the bottom. So it's not hard to imagine that they could get up to, right, to get to $20, they'd have to go up 62% in the second half of the year. So to put it in perspective, CIFR was up 42% this week. Bitfarms was up 36% this week. So to think that one of these might go up 60% in the rest of the year seems extremely, extremely reasonable expectation. Hello, JJT. Welcome. We're at 95 likes. We're knocking on the door of 100. Let's see what everybody else thinks. Well, actually, I need to ask our important poll here.
Doesn't look like we're going to hit the all-time high, Tom. Does not look like we're going to do it during the stream.
During our stream today? Well, that's okay. As long as we get it soon, I'm just fine with that. Okay, and this is an important poll. If you guys would please participate, your participation is appreciated. Will Bitcoin hit $175,000 in this bull run? And I'm saying 2025 and maybe into 2026, because I do think this is going to go a little longer and look a little bit different than previous runs. So who thinks we're getting to 175? In the meantime, okay, so the crypto tax proposal that didn't make it into Trump's bill, so we haven't even talked about the fact that the quote big beautiful bill passed today, and so that is done. But unfortunately, our crypto language didn't get in there. It got pulled the night before. But
isn't that amazing?
Yeah, there was a lot of jockeying around, and we got cut out the night before. But Senator Cynthia Lummis has introduced a standalone bill to pursue the same objectives to ease up on several tax concerns involving digital assets. So here it is in a nutshell. The bill would set a de minimis threshold of $300, below which crypto transactions needn't be tracked for potential capital gains. And then I think they put a $5,000 cap on that for the year. And essentially what they're trying to do here, and what Cynthia Lummis is trying to say is, listen, some of this stuff's going to be digital currency. You can't charge somebody capital gains tax for buying a cup of coffee, which is what effectively will happen if they don't do something about this. So I do think this will pass. But it didn't get into the bill that passed today. But I would look for this to be coming to a theater near us soon. Okay, I just want to bring this up real quickly because I don't know if this seems delusional to me. Tether to mine Bitcoin with this company in Brazil. Okay, that's great. But I want to get to something that they said. Get to some of the facts here. $230 megawatts in power. So this, and they have other agreements with other people. This was 230 megawatts. That's a nice little facility, right? It's nowhere near what some others have done, but it's substantial. But my problem with them is, let me find it. The CEO of Tether is saying, he said at the Bitcoin conference, and I have the article right here, Tether CEO aims for top spot in Bitcoin mining in 2025. He is reiterating that he thinks Tether is going to be the largest Bitcoin miner in the world by the end of 2025. And I have scrubbed the web. I can't find anywhere where thus far they have any significant Bitcoin mining operations at all, right? They just made an agreement to get some up and running, but these things don't happen overnight, right? You don't go from 0 to 70. Marathon's going to be at 75 exahash. They said, well, we've allocated $2 trillion. Well, guess what? That's not getting you to 75 exahash. So I just think this is a wild, outrageous claim that's baseless hype. That's my opinion.
What if they bought Bitfarms or have something going with Bitfarms or have something going with a miner?
If they were to buy out stuff that was already up and running, they could start to take a run at that. But, you know, Bitfarms gets them to 20 exahash. They got to get to 70 exahash, 75 exahash.
They're going to have to buy somebody.
Right. They would have to buy multiple companies to even stand a shot at this, because to build out their own infrastructure is just not feasible.
No, it would take years.
Right.
We've watched it.
Right. We see what this takes, and you don't do this, you know, quickly. So I don't.
Where is Tether based out of, by the way?
I don't know. I know it's not the United States.
Yeah, I know. Is it in South Korea?
If somebody knows the answer, drop that in the comments. I actually don't know the answer to that.
I think they have a lot to do with Binance, don't they?
Yes, they do. And Tether is the stablecoin of choice on Binance, and it's why they're so enormous. They're enormously larger than Circle, but I would watch out. I think Circle is going to make a big move to catch up to them. So they say Tether operations now span 15 sites across Uruguay, Paraguay, El Salvador, including new substations and renewable energy projects. But you'll notice they don't talk about how many machines are up and running and all that kind of stuff. For comparison, they're saying for comparison, top public miners such as Marathon and CleanSpark and Riot currently operate between 19 and 57 exahash. But that isn't for comparison purposes because they don't tell us how many exahash that they have. And I suspect it's because at the moment, although they're trying to get things up and running, it's very little. So, not that anybody...
El Salvador.
El Salvador.
Tether is, yeah.
It is?
Yep.
Well, there's your answer. So,
I mean, that means they're going to be mining in El Salvador, I guess, right?
You would think so.
Where is El Salvador's in relation to Paraguay or?
I was told there would be no geometry in this portion of the. I'm sorry. Not geometry, geography.
They started in Hong Kong.
So this thing they're announcing is in Brazil. Last thing I want to go through, U.S. jobs data blows through the forecast with 147K added. This is the most unreliable data on Earth. If you remember, they adjust this several times, 2 months after get an adjustment. And then at the end of the year, they make an annual adjustment. And if you remember, last year it was like almost 1 million they were off by, like 860,000 job adjustment they made at the end of the year last year. So down. That's right, down. So these reports to me are, I mean, that's so far outside of any reasonable margin of error that it almost makes these reports meaningless. But of course, the market reacts to it because if you go look what happened just yesterday, I had an article where Jerome Powell was talking about a rate cut being on the table for July. But then this came out today, and look what happened. The market went from a week ago, 76% chance of no rate cut. Today, it jumped up to a 95% chance of no rate cut. So because of that jobs number, that in all likelihood is somewhere between wrong and dramatically wrong, and that's just based on historical precedent. I'm not guessing. The market changes, and now we're not going to get a rate cut. And I'm on record as saying the Fed is ridiculously late at this point. It's embarrassing. It makes no sense. And ultimately, they're going to be chasing their own tail as they usually do, doing extra rate cuts to make up for the fact they missed the boat. They missed it on the way up. Remember, we spent a year listening to them say, we don't need rate hikes. Inflation's transitory. Inflation's transitory. So they didn't do any rate hikes. So what happened? Inflation went through the roof. So then they had to overreact and do extra rate hikes because they were stupid and didn't do any when they should have been. Inflation was transitory. That was a pipe dream. Inflation got over 9%. It was the worst in like 40 years. So they were late to the party then, and they're just as late right now. Right? The European Union's target rate is at 2.5%. We're at 4.5%. Right? The European Union in totality is roughly the same size economy as the United States. They're at 2.5%. Japan's at 0. I'm sorry, 0.5%. Switzerland's at 0. right? I mean, we need to, this, by the end of the year, this number is going to plummet past anywhere people think, in my opinion. By the way, thank you guys for getting us over 100 likes. Ethan said, what a big week for IREN. Phenomenal week for IREN. Phenomenal 3 months for IREN. So those are my parting thoughts. It looks like there will be no rate cut in July. And I think there should be. I think there should have already been. I think they should do a 1.0% rate cut right now. And they'll still be behind where they should be if they did that, in my opinion. It's not going to happen, so it's a pipe dream. But that's what I think. Will Bitcoin hit 175K in this bull run? 80% say yes. So this is very encouraging because the last 4 streams, the result of this poll has been about 50-50, plus or minus. So for this to jump up to 80, I think shows that a lot of people think we've turned the corner, we felt the pain, and we're back on track now to hit some good numbers. What do you think, George? 175 by the end of this bull market?
Definitely.
Definitely. I say yes as well. So I count me among the yeses.
I'm not saying it's going to stay there, but I mean, it's going to get there.
That's all we're talking about, right? We know there's volatility and pullbacks, but are we going to hit 175? And I think the answer is yes. The majority agree. And it is time.
The people have spoken, Tom.
The people have spoken. So let it be written. So let it be done. Bitcoin 175,000. But in the meantime, Bitcoin 109,737. And there's nothing wrong with that. So it was a good day for Bitcoin. It was a good week for Bitcoin. It was a much better week for the Bitcoin miners. So we got a long weekend ahead, everybody. Let's hope that Bitcoin hangs in there. And let's see if we can take the next leg up to the members only. We will see you guys on Tuesday. For everybody else, next week we'll be back to our normal schedule, which is after the close of the U.S. equity markets on Friday. So hope to see everybody then. In the meantime, if you are getting a long holiday weekend, please be safe and enjoy your weekend. George, any parting thoughts?
Happy 4th of July. Nothing really. Good to see you, Tom.
All right. You too. Everybody enjoy. We'll see you next week.
Everyone.